A man who is driven by animalistic desires will be ruled by those needs, that dependency. He will be forever wanting, unable to see past the object of his desire, wealth, companionship, power, pleasure. If a man is driven solely by avarice, lust, pride or envy, he will have to acquiesce to the external world, compromising his integrity. Influenced and manipulated by others, he will lose himself. He will become lost. His true purpose in life will become their purpose. What they can offer, he will need. And so it goes. For a man to truly be free, he needs to see past his conditioned dependencies. What's on the other side? If he looks beyond his given purpose, his social conditioning, his biological function, is there more to life? Free from desire, a man can see clearly. He sees a never-ending game of supply and demand, a high price to pay for faulty goods. It doesn't do what it says on the can. Only a fool goes back for overpriced goods which may break and cause him lasting injury, or poison him with its toxic contents. A dirty drug supplies temporary pleasure, but it damages the body and mind. When a man sees the danger, he also sees the folly, the Faustian deal, and he learns to walk away. The man who stays is lost, wandering further into darkness, away from the light of his true purpose in life. When he learns to see his true purpose as being worthy, the objects of past desires become ugly and worthless. They pose a threat to his new way of life. Past desires can cause instability and risk. The moth that remains drawn to the flame will lose its wings and may never fly again. What once was desirable and necessary becomes undesirable and unnecessary. A burden, a wasted thought without purposeful outcome. The difficulties once found in being alone become valuable, as we now have the gift of time. No value can be placed upon time or energy saved. When a man walks away from evil, he walks towards good. From darkness to light, he finds himself in a better place, a safer place. Life becomes peaceful, emotions become balanced, and temptation is restrained. Composure is ever present, with measured thoughts and actions following on. Attachment to material things is minimal, to avoid grief, loss, and suffering. He draws pleasure from possessions while they last, but he's able to move on without carrying the weight of superficial attachments. When things cease to exist or become lost, he sees them for what they truly were, temporary. There's no need to hold on to things once they're gone, as holding on too tightly wastes precious time and energy. Man fights when he has to, but sees when there's nothing to win. Sometimes we have to lose the battles to win the war. Sometimes the best strategy is not to fight at all. It's not about winning or losing. Man's ultimate aim is not to be defeated by himself or others. The fight is as much within as it is with the world outside, in which victory matters most. To conquer yourself or be drawn into meaningless confrontations. Your most valuable possession is you. People come and go. Houses come and go. Possessions can be lost, stolen or broken. All that's left in the end is you. The less you desire, the less attached you become. Letting go of dependency eliminates the possibility of manipulation, betrayal, and suffering. Despair is just suffering without meaning. Learn to find meaning in yourself, and you'll have no need to place your trust in others to give your life purpose. Become self-reliant, self-governing. The self is at the center of everything you need to be at peace. The less you look to external things to make you happy, the more things you'll find in yourself. There is no out there, only in here, in here. Expectation often brings disappointment. But simple pleasures can be found everywhere. They last forever, as they can always be found. Often the things you need, you already have, and the things you want, you don't really need. Owning things of great value makes others envious. It's best to live a modest life, full of simple pleasures. Learn to appreciate what you have, and not crave superficial things. Teach yourself to sit in a room, alone, and say nothing. Then you'll be able to hear yourself. You'll understand what you need, and what's not necessary. Most of the things you need you already have. The rest will come with work, patience, and time. Or maybe it's just never meant to be. The only limits are the limits of your imagination. Make plans and be prepared. When you climb a mountain, you only have to put one foot in front of the other. It's just like a big staircase. If the mountain doesn't want you to climb it, the mountain will let you know. Maybe you'll have to turn back and try again another day, but the summit will always be there. The view on the way up is often better than the view from the summit anyway. I once climbed a mountain, hoping for an answer at the top, but all I found there were clouds and a long walk down. That taught me more about life than many other things. At least the mountain was honest with me that day. The lesson was hard but fair, and I don't need to go back there to be reminded. Expecting a view from the top can lead to disappointment, but if you do get to see it, you can be thankful. Life has infinite possibilities, yet men choose to enslave themselves. They listen only to the world outside, or the chemical signals given internally. The slave mind of a man blindly accepts biological and socially given orders, never thinking to question if there's more to life than this. This constant compliance. An obedient slave, submissive and willing to sacrifice himself, and the infinite options which he never considered. Both good and evil will visit the man's life, and simply refusing to acknowledge the existence of either does not mean they will cease to exist. His inability to comprehend these concepts and the consequences of his ignorance will be his downfall. The young mock the old with false bravery and naive words, but when the young men grow up and become adult in their thinking, they will see the error of their ways. They will regret their stupidity and wish they could take back those misguided slurs on the older, wiser men. The older men just watch and remember how they were at that age. Some will only ever learn by making their own mistakes, as many of the older men had to. Nothing changes, yet men still ask for change. When the hammer falls, it's indiscriminate. It takes out any man who dares to tempt fate. There are no exceptions. Only then will he respect the concept of evil as it exists in all of humanity, when power and control are given over without responsibility or the need to feel remorse. It's in us all, darkness and light. So we return to the center, the self. We erase all past knowledge and disconnect from obsolete programs. There is a new blank slate, the infinite options of a man reborn. His imagination becomes reality. He imagines a house is built, a car is restored, a business comes to life. Everything made by man began as a thought, an idea. With enough planning and hard work, a man can make anything happen. The only limits are the limits of his imagination. The social conditioning and biological expectations placed on men only serve to hold them back in life. Man's purpose is not to serve the weaker sex when they do not serve him. A man will never reach his full potential if he obsesses over the female form. Men will give up their infinite ability to build and create if they allow themselves to become hopelessly infatuated and besotted with the female. Those men will be lost. Slave-minded men, beaten by their own biological needs. Weak, pitiful men, willing to risk it all for a temporary chemical high, as they take their turn in the queue behind other weak men, unable to master themselves or remain in control of their own mind, their own behavior, These weak and helpless men all sharing the same women, taking their turn over and over again, worshipping the females they pretend to despise, putting the gun to their own heads and hoping it doesn't go off. There's no hope for these men. They will learn the hard way. In contrast to the slave-minded men, the reconditioned man has taught himself to think differently. No longer governed by his biological or social conditioning, he is truly free. Free of the need for approval from others, unlike the collectivist, who can easily be bought and sold for fear of exclusion from the coterie. The group thinkers are forced to lead or follow accordingly to keep their place in the dominance hierarchy, often stabbing others, their brothers, in the back. The individual is free from all of this if he chooses to be. He keeps his circle small and trusts only those few. He learns to observe his own mind and reflect on every thought. He begins to understand who he is as he answers his own existential questions. He sees himself as the center of his own universe. Without understanding the self, nothing means anything. He no longer does everything for others. He serves himself above everyone else. That's man's true purpose in this life, to serve himself first and live a peaceful life. It takes patience and discipline to overcome boredom and loneliness. How many men are able to wait and resist all temptation until they find peace and tranquility? Those who seek temporary pleasures are ruled by their addictions. The reconditioned man observes the foolish ones and sees himself as he used to be. They serve as a good reminder not to go back. Through these observations, the weak men teach us when to be strong and exercise restraint. They can be useful idiots sometimes, as they remind us just how safe we are compared to them. The purple pills are just a placebo. Love is a chemical. In truth, it's only reserved for close family, friends, and pets. Love is just attachment for safety and security, loyalty and trust which may or may not be abused. Fear is often confused with wisdom, as the naive young men accuse the abstinent men of being fearful. The wiser men see this posturing for what it is, stupidity and bravado, as foolish pride comes before a fall. Men are still fooled into patriotic pride, a tribal instinct to protect a country that would send them to war, then throw them away when they return home. What good is a soldier with no legs when there's another man ready and willing to sacrifice himself? Yet men still want to defend their women, conditioned slaves ready to fight and die for a country that doesn't give a shit about them, and women who open their legs to anyone for welfare checks and social housing. What good is patriotism? Serving a country that doesn't serve you. What good is collectivism? Sacrificing yourself for the good of others. What good is altruism when it's expected of you and you're made to feel guilty if you refuse to give yourself over? It's never enough for these people. They want you to give everything you have until there's nothing left. Yet some men still do. They're fooled by the promise of love. Love is attachment. It's just conditional attachment. A one-way business transaction which leaves men bankrupt in every conceivable way. Yet some men go back for more of the same, like moths to the flame. Social interactions are purely transactional, with each person looking to gain from each connection. People always want more, even when they have everything they need. It's never enough. I used to want things. I used to need things. But when you see just how easily it can all be taken away, you learn not to want. You learn not to need. Fear is of the unknown. Wisdom, on the other hand, tells you not to have unrealistic expectations, which can lead to disappointments, not to form unnecessary attachments, which lead to loss and suffering. Some men think they know, others just know. There's no need to learn the same lessons twice. This life is nothing new. The cycle repeats itself. Everything returns from whence it came in the end. Then it just becomes something else. Water becomes clouds, clouds become rain, and the rain falls back down to earth. And men are just the same. If you want to be reborn, if you want to break the cycle, then you have to let yourself die. Give up everything they told you to be. Don't listen to nurture. Give up everything biology tells you to be. Don't listen to nature. Then the only thing that controls you is you. You're free to be who you want to be, and not who they want you to be, expect you to be. When you stop listening to all of those voices, there's only one voice left to hear. Then you'll know who you really are, what you need, and what you don't need. Who measures your success now that you don't really need anything? Don't let yourself be controlled by the things which can destroy you. Money, sex, drink, drugs. These things will own you and hold you back if you let them. You will lose yourself to those addictions if you're not careful. Face your demons. If you want to conquer your fears, your anger, your addictions, you have to confront them, spend time with them, and learn to understand where they come from. Be in control of yourself. Don't let these things dominate you because you're worried about what you might find. Procrastination breeds anxiety. Don't put these things off. Conquer your worst fears and your darkest memories. Don't be afraid to open those doors in your mind. The good man in you will teach the bad man. The bad man in you seeks to destroy you. He's the devil whispering in your ear. He's Thanatos, trying to send you back to your maker. He's not your friend, but he pretends to be. Nature doesn't serve man. Nurture doesn't serve man. And half of that same man is against him if he gives in to it. Listen to the good man in you and learn to silence the devil. If we stay centered, if we remain true to ourselves, we can learn to live without the external world for the most part. We can sever those connections which only serve to take from us. In isolation, we can win over the social conditioning and master our own minds and behaviors. If we study ourselves, we can overcome anything. If we confront our demons, we can beat them, and the bad dreams will go away. The world will have to learn to accept us the way we choose to be. They will have to bend to our will. When they see that we don't bend or give in, they will learn to leave us be. They have nothing to offer. We don't need their approval. We accept ourselves as we are. If you can endure solitude, nothing can break you. If you can suffer hardships and pain and still remain positive, no one can hurt you. If you can listen to lies and slander, yet remain resolute in your beliefs and convictions, you will be unshakable. You will stand the test of time and never give in. You will always rise from the ashes. Temptations will always be there in our moments of weakness, just like wolves waiting for the campfire to go out. But when we realize that there's more to life than temporary pleasures that can wipe out everything we've worked for, we learn to appreciate the simple things. Desire is temptation in disguise. Remove desire and we're left only with the things we really need. Desire controls men. It catches them off guard in moments of weakness, when they're drunk or high on the smell of perfume. If a man fills his day with positive things, there's no time to think about anything else. He just has better things to do. Chasing women becomes a waste of time. Drinking beer can make him late for work the next day, and his money could be spent on better things. Moderation comes with self-control and discipline, not giving in to temptation. There's always something under the surface, an underlying reason for impulsive behaviors. We choose to act in certain ways without knowing why. The rational mind needs to rule over the limbic system. Logical decisions need to be made over biological impulses. Productive outcomes need to prevail over temporary dopamine highs. Moderation needs to win over recklessness and excess. Wisdom over stupidity. Strength of mind over youthful ignorance. The underlying reasons for our thoughts, words and actions need to be questioned and understood. Some men will hear the truth and carry on living the lie. Others will hear it and be reborn after killing their old self. The men who give in to temptation will eventually get themselves burned, whilst the men who look inside and ask the right questions will eventually be free and find peace.